Hey guys, it's Charlene. Today I'm going to be sharing with you how to really amp up your Copic colored cards. So here's the card we're going to make. I'm using the brand new Stamp and Die of the Month from Not Too Shabby. Jamie over there sent it to me because she knows I love butterflies so much. So this is a gorgeous Stamp and Die set. But I'm going to use that big, beautiful butterfly from the middle of the stamp set there. It's this gorgeous floral on one side, and then you have the beautiful butterfly wing. It's really, really nice. I'm stamping this out in some black dye ink, and I'm going to double stamp this. It's a new stamp, so sometimes when I'm working with new stamps, I need to double or even triple stamp, especially if I'm using dye ink. But after I've stamped it a couple times, I don't seem to have that issue anymore. So just keep that in mind if you're newer to stamping, that sometimes these new stamps, they take a few stampings to really break in. So I've stamped out 3 total of this gorgeous butterfly because I'm going to be doing Copic coloring. Now this is going to be a cool colors card. So this first butterfly, I am starting out with some shades of purple. I'm using V12, V15, and V17. And I'm not going to do more than one color per butterfly. So each butterfly is going to have kind of a monochrome feel to it because it's just going to be in that one color. So I'm starting out with my darkest, my V17, and putting it where I believe the shading would be. And then I'm coming in with my midtone, which is the V15, and I'm kind of pulling out that dark color. And then I'm finishing things off with my lightest, which is the V12. And then sometimes I'll go back over again with the midtone and the darkest if I want to increase those shadows. Now, if you are newer to coloring with alcohol ink markers, a couple things you want to keep in mind. One, the type of paper that you use really does matter. So I will oftentimes color on this Spectrum Noir paper that I have because it is ultra smooth and it almost has a little bit of a plasticky feel to it. I'm not sure if that makes sense. It would probably if you felt the paper. But as a result, it tends to not soak up as much of the alcohol inks with each pass. So that makes it so I can do multiple passes to get the blend that I really want. In particular, if I'm working with an image where I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do the shading or how I want the finished look to be, I will definitely reach for this paper. Now, certainly you can color with all kinds of other cardstock. I oftentimes will also use 80-pound Nina Solar White, kind of the standard cardstock, but that soaks up the ink a lot faster, so you have a lot less time to blend, or your paper just can't hold as many passes with the markers. So keep that in mind. For my other 2 butterflies, I've done one in blues and one in blue greens, so kind of teal color. For the blues butterfly, I used B93, B95, and B97. And for the teal butterfly, I used BG05 and BG09. For my leaves, I went back in and did G21 and G29. Okay, so here is where the magic happens for amping up your Copic coloring. So you can see I went in with some anti-static powder tool. I never took my stamp off of my MISTI, and now I am stamping with black pigment ink. Now, pigment ink sits on top of the paper as opposed to soaking into the paper, so it's going to give you a very rich, vibrant black on the top of your stamp. And then, as an added bonus, because it stays wet for longer, it's really easy to heat emboss with. So I'm going to come in here and add some clear embossing powder over the top, and this is only going to stick to the stamped black areas. This is really going to give a wow factor to your card, you guys. You should definitely try this. You got to be a little brave because you are stamping over an image that you fully colored already, which can be a little anxiety inducing. But you know what? It's only paper. That's what I tell myself. There have been times where I have misstamped, but I always try to make sure to get that right back down in the bottom right hand corner of my MISTI, so that way when I restamp it with pigment ink, it's going to go right where it's supposed to. So now I've got my clear embossing powder on there, and I can heat it with my heat tool, and it adds so much beautiful volume and shine to the butterfly. I'm going to do a side by side here so you can see there's the blue and teal one that I have not done with the embossing powder yet, and you can see the one on the left that I did the pigment ink and the embossing powder. It just really makes a difference, and it looks so gorgeous because we're doing this kind of monochrome feeling to these butterflies. Each butterfly is just that one color in lights and darks, and then when you have that beautiful black outline to it, it just really makes that monochrome look to the butterflies kind of pop. I don't know. I think it looks awesome. So I've got all three done now. I can cut them out with the coordinating die, which is nice. Now the Stamp and Die of the Month Club, it comes out on the 1st of every month, and if you want to get a discount, you can subscribe monthly and you'll get an 18% discount, which is really nice. I really like this butterfly image. This is one of the prettier butterfly stamps I've ever seen, so definitely check out the Stamp and Die in the Month Club. One thing I really like is the amount of dies that were included in this kit. So you can see here I'm stamping out this really tiny sentiment from the stamp set. It says sending hugs, and there's actually even a coordinating die for this. I love it. So here's a good tip for you. We're working with those three big beautiful butterfly images. When you have a card that is mostly taken up by large images, using a small sentiment works really well. It kind of creates this your eye is drawn to the sentiment because it's literally the smallest thing on the card. So just keep that in mind. Small sentiments work really well with large images. So you can see I've layered this up. I've taken two more of the die cuts that coordinate with the Sending Hugs stamp, and I'm layering them up with some liquid glue. I did heat emboss my sentiment, so I just used a little strip of dark blue paper, and I used some clear embossing ink and white embossing powder. If you struggle with white embossing powder, a good tip is to try out using white pigment ink. Now that for me doesn't work really well, but it works really well for lots of other people. And I think it largely depends too on the type of white pigment ink you're using. I have better success with some inks than I do others. All right, I have die cut out a slimline sized card frame, and it has this nice little scalloped edge around there because I'm just using a white background, so I wanted it to have kind of a pretty little detail to it around the edges. And now I'm putting down some double-sided adhesive. I'm using the one from scrapbook.com, and you guys, this stuff is so sticky. Like, it is the stickiest double-sided tape, so if you have it, you know what I'm talking about. But it's awesome because I don't have to worry about anything coming off of my card, but you do have to be careful when you're putting it down because once it's down, it's not coming off. So I also recommend using some scissors that are meant for double-sided adhesive as well because it makes it much easier. Your scissors don't stick to everything. So you can see here what I'm doing. I folded back a little bit of the release tape, and now I'm going to line up my whole card panel, and I'm going to get it where I want it before I commit and press down that edge. So once I get that where I want it, I can just go in, press down that edge, and this makes things much easier to line up. So pressing it down, and then I can kind of pull back the panel because it's not going to move because that double-sided adhesive, I'm telling you guys, it's legit. It will not let go of stuff. So then you can remove the release paper and just kind of press the rest of your card panel down, and it's going to go right back to where you originally had it when you were lining everything up. So I've got that done. Now I can come in and put my card together. I did lay everything out before I started putting everything down. That's something I like to do. Some people kind of freestyle it, but I almost always will plan out my cards by kind of putting everything down where I think it should go, and then I take everything off and put it all on. I don't always show you guys that in my videos, but I did want to show you that I do that because I move stuff around quite a bit before I decide on a final kind of layout for my cards. So don't be afraid to sort of spend a little while figuring out where you want things. That doesn't work for everyone. Some people really just like to just kind of wing it. that's not me. I'm not a wing it kind of gal, you guys. I need things structured and ordered, and I like to have the option to change things before I commit. So I've got some double-sided foam adhesive on the back of all of these. I used a little bit lower profile because I still want to be able to mail this pretty easily. So I did not use kind of the real thick tape. I used the one that's thinner. I think it's like 2 millimeters or something like that. And you can see I'm tucking the upper right corner of the butterfly wing. I'm tucking it under the previous one. And I'm doing that with both or all three butterflies. So the first one's tucked under the second one's tucked under the third one, and that just gives it a cohesive fill, but also allows those three big beautiful butterflies to fit onto a slimline size card. This, by the way, is also a great layout for slimline size cards. Like anything in threes, bigger things in threes work really well, and it doesn't have to be your images. It could even be windows that you cut out. So there's that finished card, you guys. I really love how simple but complex those colors are on this card. I hope you guys picked up some tips and tricks today. Please be sure to like and subscribe, as well as hit that notification bell so that I can continue bringing you more crafty content in the future. Until next time, happy crafting.